You want to grow your coaching business, but you're stuck. You're not sure what to charge for your services. You've heard you should niche down, but you're afraid to say no to potential clients. You're posting content on social media with no clear system, and maybe even you spent money on certifications or ads, but neither gave you the return you hoped for. You're unsure what actually works, and you definitely don't have a repeatable way to get high-paying clients every single week. You start searching. You're watching videos, signing up for freebies, and listening to different gurus, only to find advice that contradicts itself or just burns you out. But the truth is, it's not because you don't care. You do care a lot, and you want to help people. You want to build a business that reflects who you are, and you want freedom, income, and impact. But the path forward feels confusing. You think, if I could just get consistent clients, everything would change. But every time you try something new, it leads to more burnout, more self-doubt, and more questions like, am I even cut out for this? And what started as a calling starts feeling like a chore. And you get stuck in what I call the imposter flywheel, a loop that feeds your self-doubt. You post more and you still don't get leads. You take another course and it's still unclear. You lower your price, but no one buys. You question yourself, and that spiral just turns into more burnout. And it's not that you're not trying, it's that you're spinning in the wrong direction. You're stuck in a self-reinforcing loop that keeps you trapped below 10K months. And I get it. Listen, I've been there, and I struggled for 2 years to grow my own life coaching business until I realized how to reverse that flywheel. When you build from your authentic story and you lead with a tangible offer and you power it with connection and proof, everything changes. And that's what I call the authority flywheel. It's what powered my life coaching business to consistent 50K months. And that's exactly why I built the Entrepreneurial Coach program to help other coaches just like you break out of that imposter flywheel and build something real. Because if I can help other coaches grow their businesses and increase their impact, then that creates exponential impact, way beyond what I could have done alone as a life coach. So who am I? I'm Eric Anthony Winkler, founder of Epic Voyage, and we work with aspiring part-time and full-time coaches who are tired of inconsistent income, underpriced sessions, and content that just never converts. We help them stop guessing and install a simple 3-step system that brings 1 to 2 high-ticket clients per week using organic content. And once it's proven, we show them how to scale profitably with paid ads, so they're never wondering where their next client will come from. And this isn't just theory, it's a battle-tested system that I've used and my clients have used to grow their coaching businesses. So let's break this simple yet powerful system down. So let's bring it back to 2015. I was in college, I was 21, I was drinking too much, and honestly, I was full of anxiety and burnout because of 2 things. Number 1, I wasn't getting enough sleep, even though I'm sleeping in this picture, but I honestly was hospitalized 3 times in 1 week because of panic attacks. I had a degree I didn't want, I was studying biochemistry at the time, and I just had a really uncertain path. And looking back, I'm really thankful for this time in my life because it's the struggle that ultimately made me decide that I wanted to be a life coach. Long story short, I was able to transform the struggles that I was dealing with. I'm really thankful for it at the end of the day because it's what led me to become a life coach later. Let's flash forward to 2016 and 2017. I graduated with a degree in biochem, but I completely pivoted into software as a project manager, and I got a job up in San Francisco working full-time in tech. I literally was driving back to LA, had no career, no jobs, and that's when I got the call from a recruiter saying, congratulations, we need you to start in a month. And that was literally 2 days after I graduated. So a month later, boom, went up to San Francisco, started my life in tech. And honestly, I learned so much. I grew as a project manager, a chief of staff, a business operations director, business strategy, and I learned so much from these billion-dollar tech companies, but there was something missing. Deep down, I didn't have that entrepreneurial lifestyle, that entrepreneurial drive that I've had since my whole life. So 2 years into tech, I was like missing something. And I was trying to decide, do I go for my MBA or do I start a part-time side hustle? And I wasn't sure which one I wanted to do. So I used the exact same things that I did back in 2015 to get out of this mess and figure out what I wanted with my life. But in 2018, I said, you know what? I'm gonna start my own coaching business. But that created a huge problem. I was stuck in this spiral. So this spiral is probably where you're finding yourself right now. Ultimately, you probably have some really vague messaging, okay? meaning, oh, you'll live a better life, you'll be happier, you'll be able to, be in alignment. It's like, what does that even mean? And or you also have a generic certification, right? Which I actually didn't get a certification because I was like, I can just pull from my experience. But if you have vague messaging and a generic certification, you just really have a rocky foundation, which ultimately leads you to a position where you have very unclear processes to build a business. You're probably in a position where you have no niche, and because of that, you have to lower your price because no one understands the value of what you're selling. And they're like, yeah, maybe, I'm not really sure. And look, I was struggling with the same thing. I was selling my life coaching to a bunch of my friends from college because they reach out, they're like, Eric, you changed your life, help me. But I had no idea how to price. I honestly coached them for free, and they're struggling kids right out of college, so they didn't have money. So the start was really rocky for me. Like, sure, mindset, productivity, but I was coaching for free, so I've been there. You're in this position where you have no niche, you're lowering your price, you're maybe charging $100 per session max, and you start questioning, what am I even doing? Why am I doing this? How can I actually even be a coach? You're questioning your value. And that spirals because guess what? Maybe you try organic content to get leads and you have unclear organic messaging because guess what? You don't know what you're even coaching on. You're using, I'm a life coach, I'm certified, I'm better, I can help you live a better life. It's just not landing. People don't know what that means. And then on top of that, maybe you're running paid ads. And that's not good either, because if you're spending money on ads and you have vague messaging, you're probably getting really bad leads. And there's a lot of marketing agencies out there that are like, oh, we'll get you so many leads and you'll be able to transition them to clients. But if you have vague messaging, right, at the center of all of this, you're never gonna be able to get out of this, what I call imposter flywheel. And I was here for 2 years, struggling. Making content on social media, it going nowhere, being confused and burning out, questioning my value. And honestly, I was questioning if I even should be an entrepreneur anymore, if I should even be a coach. And I was like, I guess I'm just gonna be in tech for the rest of my life. But then it hit me. So if you feel like you're in this imposter flywheel, it's okay. I'm gonna explain how to get out of it. We're gonna start with how I got out of it back in 2020. So it's January 2020. I'm thinking, what can I do here to change things? I hear you need a funnel, you need to have a website, you need to make content, and I'm trying all those things, but it's just not landing. And I'm coaching people for free and they're getting amazing results, but they're just not converting. Like, I can't charge more than $100 a session. So then I realized I need a new model. I was focused on the wrong type of situation to get people results. So I looked and I saw, if I can actually make high-ticket, tangible outcomes that communicate the value, and I can go from my authentic story and create content that's similar to online fitness influencers that were really big at that time, then I might be able to make this work. And that new model is what exploded my business. I started making content, and it started slow. But I realized that if I share my authentic story, such as I lived as a monk for 24 hours, why I never make my bed in the morning, what I learned from traveling the world, what's my mission in life. And if I combine it with really helpful content, like why I stopped following routines, then maybe I'll start getting traction, because that's what fitness influencers were doing. And guess what happened? I started getting a bunch of engagement. As you can see, all these really successful reels, short form content, sharing my story, and ultimately growing a massive following. And I know you're like, Eric, I don't want to be an influencer. Let me click out of this video. You don't have to be. I did this for years, and you're not going to grow overnight. But the key is that even if you're getting low views, you want to be able to actually speak to your target avatar using content, because it's going to allow them to trust you, to build that connection in a very authentic way. And so over those 2 years, I really niched down, and guess what? I made $25K in cash, sorry, it's blurry, $25K in cash consistently just from my organic content. And that built over time, right? So 2020 to 2022, it was slow at first, but it compounded. And that's what allowed me to help all of these people and build this life coaching brand and business from the ground up. And all of my clients that got so many beautiful results. And I'm just honestly was so touched that I could finally be able to help people and get paid for it and do it in a way that was authentic to me. So How do you do this, you ask? That's what I call the authority flywheel. So let me break it down for you so you understand exactly how you can do it too. We have to start with two key pieces. The first piece is your authentic story. Most people are just relying on their certifications. But if you focus on your story, the transformation that you had, and you combine that with a very tangible and clear offer, such as, I help you decrease the intensity and frequency of the anxiety you're feeling, and I increase the likelihood of you getting a career promotion, then guess what happens? People see the value, and that's where this whole system starts. So once you do that, you move over to the left, and we start posting organic content, but not just any organic content, because you're probably like, Eric, I'm posting videos right now and I'm not getting any traction. So you're probably making content in the wrong way. You're probably spending hours doing it, probably getting nowhere quickly, getting really low views and no leads. So we need to make what I call catalytic content. Catalytic content is you post 5 times a week using very simple but really powerful formats that educate but also are transformational, focusing on your storytelling to increase your engagement. And I'll tell you this, my clients see a 2 to 7x increase in their engagement just by using our content system. And we make sure that they do it in less than 10 hours a week. It's more closer to like 2 to 5 hours a week because you got other things to do. But if you post consistently in a simple way, based off of a very tangible offer and an authentic story, guess what happens? You turn into having 100 leads a week. And these are a combination of hot inbound leads that are asking for free trainings, but also warm outbound leads that are now following you, that are engaging with your content, because this now gives you a reservoir of people to speak to every single week. And you're like, okay, great, Eric, that sounds awesome, but how do I convert them into clients? We teach you how to use what we call confident conversions. So confident conversions is a fancy way of telling you how to have authentic conversations in the DMs and over the phone to generate 5 sales calls per week from the leads that asked for your hot inbound lead magnets and free trainings, but also the people that you nurtured over time. Because guess what? These people actually want to listen to you and have a conversation because you can solve their pain points that you identified in your content, but also you are actually clearly not a salesy person and you're building trust. This whole flywheel is built on authority and trust. So now imagine, I just gave you a lever that you can pull, right? You're posting 5 times a week, you're generating 100 leads a week, you're converting that to at least 5 sales calls a week, and ultimately, that will allow you to close 1 to 2 clients per week, even with only a 20% close rate, because we teach you how to not be a closer, but how to be a leader on these sales calls. No pushy sales tactics needed at all here. What we focus on is guiding someone through how to get out of their comfort zone and then ultimately see you as the authority to help them get, guess what? Your tangible, high-ticket offer outcomes. And they already trust you because of the authentic story that you have. So if you can close 1 to 2 high-ticket clients per week using this system, you can very easily get to 10K per month without spending any money on ads, because you are selling a 2.5K program at least. Some of my clients are selling 3, even 4K programs, because again, people see the tangible results that they want, and guess what? You do that, just close 1 a week. I'm all about under promising and over delivering. Let's say you close 1 2.5K client per week. You do that 4 weeks in a row, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna quickly get to 10K in 30 days. And from there, even if you're collecting 50% of that cash up front, that's 5K in cash each month. And then ultimately you do that for 2 months straight, boom, you're at 10K cash. And now you're in a position where you could do this full time, because 10K a month in cash should allow you to maybe leave your job or be able to do this full time, because you have a system that's compounding and very clear and very straightforward. But I didn't even hit on the most important part, which is your client credibility. So if we go over here, this is the other side of the flywheel. Because you have niched down and you're getting people amazing results, guess what? Every 2 to 4 weeks, you are getting client wins, and we teach you how to do this. And you're generating case studies that you use to feed into your content. So we call that client credibility. And this is where this flywheel really takes off. Because guess what? You feed that into your content. So these new leads are now that maybe they're on the fence, right? That you're still having conversations with, that you're nurturing over time because they're not disappearing, are now convinced to get on a sales call with you. And then they become a client. And then they get amazing results. And those feed into more content that's proving out how good of a coach you are. And this flywheel keeps spinning. So regardless of if these leads have stuck around for a while and just aren't fully ready yet, they aren't committed, they don't have means to invest, or they just don't trust you enough, they see enough of this over time where it compounds and now they're ready. And so this is why it's so much better than a funnel, because it funnels, you lose leads. This, they keep seeing your content and you nurture them with their email and their phone, and you're providing free value. And over time, you now have a consistent machine to get leads and to get clients. So if you're following along, this authority flywheel is what you need to install in your business to get to consistent 10K months without spending any money on ads, okay? But don't just take my word for it, let's look at my clients as well. So in the Entrepreneurial Coach program, I literally have helped hundreds of life coaches just like you who are starting at 0 or starting at 5 to 7K months scale up with this exact flywheel without spending any money on ads, right? So as an example, Laura, she's at 16K since she started with us, and she never thought that she'd be able to sell her program more than $100 a session because she's an inner child healing coach, and people are like, what does that even mean? Again, vague messaging, but cleared it up, and boom, consistently closing 3K deals and is at 16K. Then you've got Joe. Joe struggled with paid ads. He was running ads and getting nowhere. Got a bunch of leads, great, but they were not the right fit and never converted. So once we pivoted to getting a very clear offer and actually started making content that converts, boom, he made 5K in 30 days and he's still growing. Even then, Kim, who is at an hourly rate for her nutrition program, she actually reached out to me in the DMs and saying, hey, can you mentor me on how to do this? Boom, now she closed consistent 3K deals, got to 10K per month. And she's like, Eric, I don't wanna grow past that, I'm happy with this. And she never runs ads. Or even Nick, like let's say you're an existing coach. You're like, Eric, I make about 5K a month. Yeah, Nick was making about 5 to 7K per month, but then ultimately, we needed to fix his vague messaging because again, it was like, yeah, you live a better life, find your freedom, but no one knew what the hell that even meant. So once we cleaned that up and started making organic content, boom, he was able to close $3,200 in his program because before he was only charging per month, and per month income is just not gonna cut it. You're gonna feel like you're always just pulling on straws to try to actually get revenue, which is not sustainable, it's not comfortable. And then even if you move to some of my other clients, like Rashida, an amazing speaker, but struggling to close deals. Boom, 3K deals consistently, and she gets low views on her organic. She'll actually get only about like 300 views per reel, but that's enough to generate 5 sales calls a week. So again, you don't need to be a big influencer to getting big numbers to actually be successful. It's about the right content to the right person in the right way, providing value, being authentic with your own story, and then ultimately you can be like these other clients of mine, like Dom, 2.2K deals, or Mitchell. Mitchell's been making content on social media for 6 months and never knew how to monetize it, getting about 1,000 to 2,000 views. The first week of him using catalytic content, boom, he was able to close a 3K deal and he's consistently growing now to 10K months. And then Isaiah, also a great example. Within his first week of making content, people ultimately figured out what he even did because he was posting content before and no one knew what a hypnotherapist actually does. But with the right messaging and the right content, boom, first week he's able to close his first deal for 3.9K. So what you can tell is that when you combine the right system, you can move quickly. So look, Miko, my best client to date, from onboarding call to actually closing her first deal, 13 days. So you could only be 13 days, less than 2 weeks away from making revenue like this, but more importantly, having impact. And look, at the end of the day, you're not using pushy sales tactics. And also Nam, one of my also great clients, he said, look, Eric, your program is like an MBA program, which hit me really hard because at the end of the day, coaches are great at coaching, but they might not be the best entrepreneurs. And so that's why cultivating a community like this and actually teaching you on how to be an entrepreneur with a clear system, you're actually able to get amazing results. So let's say you want to grow even more than just 10K per month with organic content. Well, let me explain to you how we can now put fuel on the fire and run it with ads. So this is the authority flywheel, which is fueled with paid ads. Now I wanna make sure that it's very clear. I don't like running paid ads in the beginning because you don't know what's proven. But once you actually are running this authority flywheel, you have a whole body of work where you can look back to on all of your posts, right? So like, for example, my posts, I was able to say, cool, this messaging really resonated. This lead magnet really worked. And I was able to then understand my consumer and point back and say, hey, I actually closed a 3K deal from this one, and then this one, and I closed 10K from this one. And so now you have a body of work that you understand how to actually run paid ads with, and that's where all of this actually starts scaling profitably. So you can burn a hole in your pocket with paid ads, but if you're actually doing something that's proven, you're able to scale. So you can see that this is a flywheel within a flywheel. So let's focus in. Nothing changed here, okay? This is your organic flywheel in the very center of it all. But what you do is you siphon off about 10 to 20% of your profits to run paid ads, okay? Because again, you're at 10K cash. So if you siphon off 10 to 20%, that's 1 to 2K per month on ads. But this doesn't stop running. You still keep going with the organic, which is in green, all of the content that leads to consistent leads and consistent clients. Because even if you burn this first 1 to 2K on ads, it's okay because you're gonna get it back. But what happens with the 1 to 2K that you put into ads? Well, number one, you start going into putting new ads every week. And this will vary depending upon who you are and what's been successful, but we take what worked before with your catalytic content, and that informs our ad strategy that we can launch every single week. And you can start slow, right? $10 a day, maybe $20 a day, and you're trying different posts, and that could lead to, guess what? 100 new leads that are a combination of followers, inbound DMs, and new emails and phone numbers that'll just be nurtured back into what you already built out with your organic flywheel. So now you have 200 leads, but guess what? You now know how to convert those people into 10 sales calls a week now because you have 5 from organic and you have 5 now from paid ads. And you know how to do that because guess what? You cut your teeth on learning the confident conversion method through DMs and on the phone. So now you're more skilled at it as well. So that way you're getting leads that are good quality and you're not wasting money because you can actually convert them into sales calls each week. So now you're taking 10 sales calls a week, and guess what? You're closing 1 to 2 clients from organic, you're closing 1 to 2 clients from paid ads. That ultimately gets you to 20K or more months with paid ads. Because if you just follow the numbers, worst case scenario, you get 2 clients a week, that's 8 in a row, that's 20K per month. You do that for 2 months, you're now at 20K cash. Because again, I don't care about revenue, like top line contracted, who cares? What matters is cash because you want to be able to get a 2.5 to 5x return on investment, so ROAS, on your cash. So that way you can consistently keep spending 1 to 2K per month on ads to then generate 5 to 10K in cash per month. And all of this keeps spinning and compounding, which allows you to have confidence even if your organic content goes up and down with your engagement. This is exactly what I did to build to 50K months in my life coaching business before I started teaching other coaches how to do this. It's also what has allowed me to make almost, literally in the recording of this call, almost $1 million since I started running all of my online coaching, okay? So I'm showing you that, look, at the end of the day, you need a proven system to get 1 to 2 high-ticket clients per week with no funnels at first, with actually just running organic content and not using any pushy sales tactics, not using funnels, using flywheels, and being authentic. Because that's what's gonna allow you to scale this business over time. And that way, you don't have to spend or burn any money with paid ads. And then eventually, once you're ready, you can reinvest it from your organic content, because you know what works and you have the cash on hand to actually be able to scale profitably like how I did. As you can see, this is true mentorship. I've been there, I've done that, I got the t-shirt. I'm not just some guru. The whole reason why I teach this method to other coaches is because I can't do what you do, right? I'm a mindset and productivity coach. So if that sounds like the kind of support you're looking for, then book a free strategy call below and we'll walk through your current situation, your goals, and exactly how we'll help you grow with no pressure at all, just pure clarity. Drop a like on this video if you want me to make more free content like this. Hit that subscribe button and even check out my Instagram because I post every single day a lot of really high value stuff to help you scale your coaching business. Also, comment below if you have any questions at all. I'll make sure I respond to them because at the end of the day, I just want you to be successful so you can actually live a life of freedom and help people while you do it.